Okay, if we could get started.
Yeah.
I assume we have public comments. I'm just waiting for the list. I don't want to take away anybody's opportunity to speak. For those people who want to speak. Yes, I understand. Just 1 second. We're not going anywhere. Yes. Okay, thanks, Kathy. Oren, you're on the list? Go ahead. Go ahead.
In the interest of keeping things going, thank you very much, Chairman Pally. My name is Oren Getz. I guess most people do know me. Just a little extra history. The real crash that caused civil speed to be enforced on railroads was the crash of the Broker, which was a Pennsylvania railroad train out of Exchange Place that ran on the New York and Long Branch. There was a speed restriction. The engineer did not abide with the speed restriction. It was a horrendous crash. The engineer ended up going into jail on that one, just to let you know. It happened in 1951. I would like to say that you talk about close call systems. New Jersey Transit's had it in place for several years now. And I think you can look into the New Jersey Transit system and see how well it worked to give you a better idea of how effective it has been, and it would be a good idea to check that out. Also, I would suggest that you look into what New Jersey Transit and Amtrak are doing in the way of PTC, because you're sharing Penn Station with them, and maybe they have some ideas that could help you implement your system even more effectively. So it would be a good idea to share ideas with Amtrak and with New Jersey Transit. And just another very important factor, and I gave you a little brochure on it, Chairman, is that Drew Galloway from Amtrak has produced an excellent presentation on Gateway 2 and the problems that have happened in the Hudson River and East River tunnels as a result of the brackish water getting in there from Hurricane Sandy. I would really, really request that you have him come and make a presentation to your committee and go through a thorough understanding of what's going on there. And particularly on the Hudson River tunnels, the damage is more serious than we think. And it's important for you to get first-hand knowledge of exactly what's happening and what may have to be done there. So he's very knowledgeable. I would request that you do bring Drew Galloway up to a future meeting and give a presentation, and you can ask him very important questions about those conditions. And finally, I did give you a little brochure about MyTix. And MyTix is now rolled out on all the lines on the New Jersey Transit system except for the Northeast Corridor. And that will be rolled out within a few months. And my feeling is there's no reason why the MTA has to develop a new system where you can download tickets on your smartphones. Possibly piggyback on the New Jersey Transit system. Look, when Easy Pass was implemented, it was first started by the New York State Thruway on the Tappan Zee Bridge. It was a great idea. Then the MTA Bridges and Tunnels adapted it, and now it's adapted by all the highway agencies all the way down to Virginia and all the way up to Maine and all the way out to West Virginia. So if you have a good idea, maybe you can share this and piggyback on their system and implement it on the Long Island Railroad, possibly Metro North, at a lot lower cost. Also, it would give you the ability to have through ticketing, which you use to get people to Secaucus for the Giant and Jet games, and maybe even in the future other events that occur there. So I think there's a great benefit from working with New Jersey Transit and not having to develop your own unique system, which would cost you a lot more to implement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the materials. I appreciate it. Next speaker is Murray Bowden.
I brought my two little fire engines. I don't know if you can see them up there. One is red, one is yellow. The yellow one is more easy to see. Story time today. The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Once there was a shepherd boy who was bored as he sat on the hillside watching the village sheep. To amuse himself, he took a great breath and sang out, "Wolf, wolf! The wolf is chasing the sheep!" The villagers came running up the hill to help the boy drive the wolf away. But when they arrived at the top of the hill, they found the wolf Boy laughed at the sight and their angry faces. "Don't cry wolf, shepherd boy," said the villagers, "when there's no wolf." Then they went grumbling back down the hill. Later the boy sang out again, "Wolf, wolf! The wolf is chasing the sheep." To his naughty delight, he watched the villagers run up the hill to help him drive the wolf away. And when the villagers saw no wolf, they sternly said, "Save your frightened song for when there is something wrong. Don't cry wolf when there is no wolf." You blow a train whistle at every railroad station. That's crying wolf. People disregard the train horn because you're crying wolf all the time. And why do you blow the whistle? The horn? Because for 50 years, New York Central Railroad did it. There is no regulation. They don't do it on the subways. Well, so I wrote to Mark Rosekind, who is the National Highway Transportation Safety Board member who was in charge of the Texas accident a year ago where a freight train ran into a trailer full of veterans. And I asked Mark, maybe you can answer the question, what needs to be done to upgrade grade crossing lights to LEDs, like the red-blue ones on the police cars? Why are they buying red fire engines when white or lime green or the new color bright yellow is safer? Tradition? What color are the fire hydrants in your town? Bright yellow are the easiest to see. Look at the trucks on the car road. Some more. And Mark wrote me back, "Murray, there are a lot of tradition and safety, and the need for evolving tradition with new technology and procedures. We will explore your question and see what the different folks have to say about your specific question related to these traditional colors. We will be back to you with some thoughts on the situation." Mark Rosekind. And that was October 31st. When I go hiking, I take my smartphone and I have the hiking trails in Harriman Park on my phone, and the GPS tells me when I'm on the trail. We recently took a trail that was very little used and covered, and there was no trail markings, and I was about as far away as from you to here, and I was off the trail, and it told me I was off the trail. My granddaughter and her friends all know where each other are because they're on a little map here on her cell phone. So if we put a cell phone on every Long Island train in a dark area, you would know where every train is without anything else. Quite inexpensively, those apps exist. They need to be adapted so that somebody sitting in the agency can see where every train is because they know where the cell phone is. Tradition, red fire engines are yellow. Red flashing lights, I talked about those red flashing lights at the grade crossings.
Mr. Bodie, can you conclude your remarks, please?
And if I don't? Tradition says I get to speak 2 minutes. But if I'm saying something after spending an hour listening to safety, and it relates to safety, I think we should spend a little more than 2 minutes updating the way we think. LED red-blue lights are on all the cars. They blind people. But we don't have them at rail crossings. When the gates go on and those 2 red lights go on, the horn could blow on that specific crossing, but it doesn't. Why? Because traditionally we buy red fire engines. Do you want me to stand here after listening to President Tom talk about safety for an hour and not stand up here and say to you, maybe you want to think about what you listen to, and maybe the rule has to change here too, and maybe what I have to say is more important than 2 minutes. You're not listening to me. You're just following the rules. You're the perfect example of not listening.
Murray, please comment to us. Thank you. Our next speaker is Dick O'Kane, Building Trades of Long Island.
I'm here on behalf of the Nassau Suffolk Building Trades. I'm the president. I'd like to inform you of what we do. We do everything from A to Z. We're one-stop shopping. And when I've sat through this last meeting and I've heard quite an emphasis on safety, I can tell you there that we have, every one of our affiliates is 34 affiliates, 60,000 members strong, and we have a high emphasis on safety. Some of our affiliates train OSHA people. So I would like to offer to you today the availability of all our schools. Every one of our affiliates has a apprentice training school where they high emphasis on safety and learn the industry. So I have some points here that I would, and anybody would like to go on a tour, I would be more than ready, willing, and able to set that up for the people that would like to do that. They're state-of-the-art centers, and you can get a lot of good out of it. I have some points here I'd like to make in support of the double-track rail system. Driving here today, I think you need a quadruple rail system, believe me. It was unbelievable. But for over 50 years, the Long Island Building Trades has played a transformative role in creating a strong bi-county region. It has also created a vibrant middle class. It's men and women whose highly trained and working skills have enabled us to buy homes in communities where we pay taxes and contribute to our economy. Today, as the MTA considers this double-track plan, I would respectfully like to remind the board that this project not only goes to the heart of how mass transit will direct the future of the region, but how this project will assist us in the organized labor movement, a part of the economy that has been terribly harmed by a recession that has not filled in our, that has not lifted in our sector. Right now, there's an epidemic of out-of-town workers that come in here to do jobs from A to Z in every phase of construction in New York. We're trying of supporting economies in Alabama, Florida, Massachusetts, North Carolina, Georgia, and Massachusetts. We would like our people, when a job comes available, to have the opportunity because we're highly skilled. Highly skilled, like I said earlier, and I don't know what skills these people come with. A lot of them right now, it's important to state that the problem is that a lot of people come from out of town. You don't know what qualities they have or credentials. So Labor has trusted President Helene Williams to offer a fair deal, a square deal, and one that is the first project labor agreement ever signed by the MTA, and we're very proud of that. We look forward to working with you, and by so approving this proposal, you will also be ratifying a project work agreement that is nothing less than historic. Completed this autumn, the document creates a blueprint for productivity and cost savings. It provides the construction trades with incentives and the taxpayer with genuine savings and a true win-win that will not change at Jamaica. One final note, it can't be said enough, double track as the means to not only to create construction jobs, but thousands of new jobs that will result from a greatly strengthened mass transit system. It will improve real estate values, spark new investment, and create 21st century access to New York City. In closing, let me thank you for this opportunity to address you on behalf of the thousands of men and women in the construction trades, and permit me to urge the adoption of the Long Island Double Track Project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming today. Our last public speaker is Mark Herbst, Long Island Contractors.
Members of the board, thank you for this opportunity to appear before you on behalf of the Long Island Contractors Association. I may briefly comment on the proposed double track, just as Dick O'Kane, my partner and friend, has just commented on. Long Island has followed the route of the Dashing Dan for over a century. From its earliest days, the Long Island Railroad has defined the island. It played a transformative role in the 20th century, turning us from a modest agricultural community into a growing suburb. And with each improvement, addition, and expansion, the rail has allowed Long Island to become a full partner in New York State's economy. Now with the double track proposal before you, the MTA has the means to continue this progressive direction of economic growth and job creation through the building of a strategically important mass transit infrastructure. Studies have been done. Exhaustive analysis have been presented, and years of research continue to demonstrate the transportation infrastructure provides the best possible rate of return for the taxpayer. As the trade association that represents the men and women who compete to do the work, we know firsthand and what a project of this size can do for the economy job creation, and the environment. LICA also recognizes what a double track improvement will do for the railroad's main line. It will allow it to become an essential part of the transportation infrastructure required for the 21st century, connecting a growing portion of Long Island to Manhattan. In repeated messages and meetings, Railroad President Helena Williams has made it clear that this project will help define the railroad's future almost as much as East Side Access. It's that important. And we recognize that the immediate benefits from double track that include expanding a number of reverse commuting opportunities for better rail connections to MacArthur Airport and creating a genuine Route 110 employment corridor with access to mass transit. Much like the railroad's arrival over 100 years ago, double track will allow the Long Island Railroad to continue its role as a positive transformative force. On behalf of the multi-billion-dollar heavy construction industry on Long Island, permit me to offer our endorsement and support for this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. That concludes our public comment period. I have the approval of the minutes of November 12th. Any changes? Motion to approve? Second. All in favor? I do not believe there are any changes to the work plan. Okay. Then we'll move on to agency reports. Helena?
Yes. I would like to just add the Long Island Railroad's condolences to the families of the deceased and of those injured at the Spite and Dival derailment. The whole MTA family, the entire rail network, certainly feels tremendous condolences and sorrow for those families. And we'd like to recognize that as well, and for those that have been injured. While the last meeting, the Metro North meeting, did go over a number of actions that have been taken since the derailment, I just wanted to make sure I was summarizing for our committee in my report the actions that we've undertaken. The chairman, Tom Prendergast, gave me very specific direction on ensuring that we were following enhanced state safety efforts similar to Metro North. So one of the first things we did was examine, using the Metro North criteria from the emergency order, critical curves in our system. We did identify 7 additional curves that are not currently civil speed enforced, and we're going to make those civilly enforced in our automatic speed control. We do have 9 curves that are already in our system, and our 1 movable bridge is already in our system. We need to find, a design. I'm sorry, not find a design. We need to do a design. We expect these 7 critical curves to be completed in the design stage by February 1, and then the revision work will begin immediately. And of course, we do have to anticipate some weather issues, but we are looking for completion by April 1, and we'll be reporting back to you on that. As an interim measure, the Long Island Railroad issued, and is issuing this week, special timetable instructions to reduce the maximum allowable speed leading into the curve. And as I did say at the previous meeting, we will also post new reduced speed signs at those locations. As similar to Metro North, we are increasing the number of audits we currently do in our SAFER program. We will use radar, onboard event recorder, and program efficiency tests to ensure that we are monitoring the overall safety performance of all of our employees. Similar to Metro North, we are going to be installing alerters in the non-equipped rail cars. So for us, while M3s and DE and DMs and C3 cabs do have the deadman feature, they're not equipped with alerters. We've already contacted the ATC manufacturer, and we will have a software developed. We expect to pilot test it in February, and it'll allow us to move forward as soon as we have that to install the alerters. Similar to Metro North, we will be participating in the FRA's close call confidential reporting system. Long Island Railroad already has a Safety One Call system available for employees to report safety concerns. We're going to ensure that while we go forward implementing the FRA system, that telephone capability is monitored all 24 hours. We also did the safety stand down that was directed by Governor Cuomo. On Thursday, December 5th, more than 4,900 employees in 200 sessions and at 80 locations all participated in the safety stand down. I myself went to Penn Station, and it's very good interactive opportunity, good to hear from our own employees and be able to talk about the reaction to what is happening. And finally, you heard comments at the last meeting on PTC. We've been directed by the chairman to examine the schedule and report back to him on any opportunities to improve that schedule. We received a safety advisory from the FRA dated December 10th, and it had 5 recommendations. We are in compliance with those recommendations, and we will do additional checks as well. We will continue to work with Metro North on any elements that come out of the deep dive. I have to reassure you that there has been tremendous communication between my operation and Howard's operation at the operational level and at the safety level to ensure that we are benefiting from all of their examination and recommendations. I also do want to note that there were comments made by public speakers regarding PTC and New Jersey Transit and Amtrak. We are working together. There is a consortium. It includes Metro North as well. We will have the benefit of Amtrak doing some installations of access, and we'll all be able to monitor that pilot testing and benefit from that. And I also want to mention with regard to damage from Sandy on the East River tunnels, same as the Hudson Tunnel, we did experience flooding in 2 tunnels, and we're working very closely with Amtrak to identify what the remediation plan is on the East River tunnels. As you know, we have an East River Tunnel track replacement program already underway. We're assessing where the water infiltration may have affected places that we've already done. I do want to turn to a different note now, and that is on ridership. Many of you may have already been notified or read in the media that New York City Transit had one of its highest ridership days on record in October. We also had our best ridership in 5 years, second best ridership in all months in the last 4 years. So it's our best October in 5 years and our second best in all of the months in the last 4 years. Our total ridership was 12.2% greater than October 2012. Now, of course, we did have Sandy at the end of October, so I said to the staff, back out what we think would have been the ridership, had we had that ridership in 2012. So even if you back it out, we would have experienced very strong ridership growth of 5.6%. So we are pleased to see this upward trend. We'll continue to monitor it, and we'll give you feedback on how we're doing. The non-commutation ridership increased 8.8% compared to October 2012. Leisure travel, that group that we do these getaway packages and we do a special, advertisement and try to attract different riders, went up 18.6%. And I want to note the impact of Barclays, where just in October alone there were 4 concerts that produced about 20,000 new customers for us. We did have speakers on our double track project. You'll see that in the package as we go forward. We have an action item on the PLA and the double track construction award. I'd like to thank those speakers for their support and for coming in today. Dick O'Kane and Mark Herbst have certainly been very good partners on Long Island. And finally, I want to close with extra holiday service. As you know, we have a program of additional service. Many of you probably saw the publicity on SantaCon. We had worked with MTA Police. I have to tell you, they did an outstanding job between the police and the weather. SantaCon became virtually a non-event for us. And I want to emphasize the alcohol ban also helped. We did a 24-hour ban. We will do that again on New Year's Eve, 24 hours, New Year's Eve day through New Year's Eve day, 24 hours of no alcohol on board. And I just have to really compliment the MTA Police for just an outstanding policing effort, just to keep our customers on board safe and keep those that have been imbibing for SantaCon safe as well. And that concludes our report.
Any comments? Chuck?
Mr. Chairman, let me start. Ms. Williams, you referred to an FRA advisory on December 10th. I don't recall receiving that. We made the point earlier, or I did at least, that we, the members of the board, have not been receiving currently the various reports. Do we have that? And if not, will you get it to us?
I certainly will. It was actually an industry advisory. And we didn't get it directly to ourselves. We're expected to know that there was an advisory. We checked the, FRA website all the time, and, we saw the advisory.
Thanks to Norman Brown, I'm starting to do
Yeah.
that.
I think the point was, it was not directed
Right.
at Long Island or Metro
Right,
North.
that's
We're
correct.
included because everybody else was included.
All right, if you
So
get a
we'll
copy
get,
to the
yes,
board.
we could get
And
copies.
I have a one-page summary. I'll make sure we send it to
Let
you.
me ask you a question which has eluded me until now. We've all focused upon the automatic speed control around curves, bridges, and the likes. Why isn't it logical to extend that across the entire system? Why is it that it's just the curves? The same safety measure would have merit on a straightaway.
I think that the chairman committed to evaluating what safety measures are in place across the system. Long Island Railroad does in fact have automatic speed control on straightaways. That was a question that came from Commissioner Greenberg. For example, on the Babylon branch, we have safety codes that drop the speed of trains if the engineer is exceeding those speeds. So we have intermediate codes. They do operate to ensure that a train cannot enter the block in front of it if it is not clear. One of the issues for the Long Island Railroad, and again, each system is unique. I want to make sure I am not speaking for any other railroad than the Long Island Railroad. Because we have 11 branches, 10 that converge at Jamaica, there is a big emphasis historically at the Long Island Railroad on ensuring that we could maximize train capacity. So one of the ways in which you safely maximize train capacity is using your signal system at intermediate codes. So we do use intermediate codes. And we rely on those in electrified territory. Our goal, as you know from last month, we brought forward the Speonk to Montauk signalization project. Our goal is to add that level of signal safety to the dark territory and to the automatic block system.
But am I hearing correctly that you have and are actively using automatic speed control across the system at Long Island Railroad, or is it just in portions?
All of our electrified territory, which is 2/3 of our system.
What about the other third?
The other third is either it is ASC territory, if it's not ASC territory, which is electrified, we have ABS, automatic block territory, and we have controlled manual block territory.
So that you have some form of speed control, not just at curves, not just at bridges, but across the system in one form or another. Is that correct?
Okay, I want to just make sure I'm saying this correctly. We have automatic speed control, which is, a term of art that is used for, the train, onboard train system, and it coordinates with wayside equipment. In all of our electrified territory, we use automatic speed control, and we have intermediate codes that regulate the speed of a train.
And why don't we have it for the other third?
Okay, the other third of our territory, which is the diesel territory, we have some diesel territory that is completely dark. It is no signal system historically. For example, Spionk to Montauk. There is no signal system in place. However, we do have a maximum speed, and we have temporary speeds, and we, of course, enforce by rule. So on the dark territory, we have something called automatic train control, and the train itself won't exceed a certain speed.
Has
that
anybody
applies
looked at
for-
the idea of putting some form of automatic speed control on the other third?
Yes, in fact, you as a committee approved our first effort last month. We went forward with a
And you-
signalization project for Spionk to Montauk,
Will
and we are expanding that effort.
Will we have then some form of automatic speed control, blocking whatever term you want
Yes.
to use, throughout the system
Yes.
within a finite period of time, not just at curves, not just at bridges, but on straightaways as well?
Our goal is to bring Long Island Railroad up to an automatic speed control level of signalization for our dark territory, for our automatic black territory, and our controlled manual black. We would like the entire system to be on an automatic speed control. That being said, I must be very careful about the commitments I make on that, because it is an enormous signalization effort. And we are working at the direction of the chairman to come up with a plan that rolls out implementation of additional signal capacity in the diesel territory.
But I think
Could
it's
you
clear.
give us
But I think it's clear to say the first portion of that we did here last month
Exactly.
with Spionk to Montauk, which includes that in it. Is that a fair
That
statement?
is absolutely
What I'm
clear.
trying to get at is, can we possibly expect a report, say 3 months hence or so, as to where you are and where you're going?
Yes, my sense is that we are all very focused on laying out a plan. The MTA would like to see it as well. Some of the costs will be included in the RIP loan, because, as you know, PTC is an overlay system, so you can't overlay it on something if there's no track circuits to begin with.
Okay. Second question, if I may. I notice there is not, and I don't fault anybody for this, this is not fault finding, there's no safety portion in here. Do you have, at the Long Island Railroad, a safety officer?
We do have a safety officer, and there is a safety report in our operations report. It's always been in there. Mike Gelomino has that safety report as well. I have a safety officer. They do a wonderful job. Neil Yellen is my safety officer. He reports directly to me, and Lori Ebenhausen, who just does a terrific job as my safety and training officer. I meet with her directly on our safety efforts as well.
Terrific. And my last, if I may. The gentleman from the Long Island Construction Trades raised an issue for me that I want to touch upon. We go to great lengths, wherever possible, to provide New York content on contracts. But we don't make any provision for New York employees. Has anybody ever given thought to that? Because you can have New York contact and not New York employees. Has anybody given thought to that?
I think we do what we can to the extent allowed by law. As you know, there's a distinction on federal contracts. We are not allowed to do New York content.
I understand.
And we've had that discussion on the bus systems and other rolling stock issues.
Where we have a focus on content, I just want to see if people could start thinking about the idea of New York employees. The point that was made was that there are people in the trades that aren't necessarily from the state of New York. Now, is that being parochial? Damn right.
Yes.
I don't think there's anything wrong about being parochial. That's obviously one of the purposes of the project labor agreement, which is later on the agenda to ensure that to the extent it can. And we will ask our labor people to determine what we can do legally beyond what we're doing at the moment.
Okay.
Any other questions for Helena? I just had 2 comments on her report. Number one, notwithstanding the fact that the alcohol ban was so good this month and we do it infrequently, I'd still like to get to a point where we do it from January 1st to December 31st. I still believe, as I have always done, that we should not be in the business of either selling alcohol or allowing alcohol on our trains. Most of the people who get off the train then get into a car, unlike the subway system where they walk. And I still firmly believe that, and I will continue to pursue it. Notwithstanding the fact that I lost a couple of years ago, I still believe that that's our aspect of that. And number 2, it is clear to me that the entire 12% increase in non-commutation are on the 840 out of Ronkonkoma, because I can assure you, you cannot get a seat on the 840 out of Ronkonkoma on Saturday mornings, no matter what you do in that context.
Can I just ask one other question?
Yes.
We've discussed this point since I first joined the board, and I'm sure somebody before me has discussed it regularly. The number of standees that one has on the Long Island Railroad. If you have a sudden halt, those people are in greater jeopardy than those seated, I would assume. And I think I'm pretty damn sure I'm right.
Yep.
And my question is, can we start focusing on standees from a safety standpoint as well? I know you're looking at it, but it seems to me we've got to get rid of that, whether they are programmed standees or unexpected standees, because now we have the additional consideration of people just getting thrown around when a train comes to a sudden
Well,
stop.
there's no question that standees have a variety of reasons that they happen. Okay, number one is the length of the cars and the fact that a lot of people don't like to sit in the middle seat. But leaving that aside, and Vinny and I have been through the middle seat issue for many years. The second aspect of it is service availability. Okay, if you run a train or a subway system on a specific schedule that encourages people to use it, they will not have to stand. When the train leaves at the Long Island Railroad and the next train leaves in an hour, people are going to stand on this train they get on because they don't want to wait an hour for the next train.
And isn't the moral of that story not making them wait an hour?
That is the
Putting
point,
another
and that
train
is
on?
what I have talked to the president about and I've talked to the chairman about, is that we have to ensure a much greater duplicity of service so that people know if I miss this train, the next one is a half hour in our case, or on the subway system it's 5 minutes or 7 minutes, or whatever the
Isn't
link
that
is
the-
in that regard.
Isn't that the restoration of service
That is
concept
correct.
that you and Commissioner
That is correct, and that's
Capelli
one of the
have been speaking
reasons
about?
we're continuing to pursue that. Thank you, sir. Anybody else for Helena? If not, Michael, Capital Construction.
Thank you. We also would like to take this opportunity to add our voices to the other MTA agencies in extending our condolences to the families of our customer who lost their lives in the unfortunate MNR derailment. Let me just bring you up to date on the East Side Access. This month we're going to be completing a number of contracts before the end of the year. The 44th Street vent plant just around the corner. We have installed the exterior panels, reinstalled a temporary gantry crane, and the final interior work is progressing, expected to end at the end of this year. The 50th Street vent plant is currently completing work in the building exterior. progressing the public open space, and planting that will be part of the job will be deferred to the spring of 2014. We also have completed the first small business federal program contract. It's about a $2 million contract, and this was completed by the end of November. The work on the southern tunnels, the 005, is actually proceeding, and we would also just as because we are kind of relate to the fact that we have another contract coming for the northern part of the contract. This is 006. We have received the bids, and we expect to, in effect, come back to the board in January for an award. 55th Street Van Plan contractor completed the rock excavation for the air plenum, and we began the shaft excavation, and we expect to have all the excavation completed by January 2014. So that will be a major a milestone for us, because we'll remove some of the issues in the community with blasting. In Queens, the Plaza substation in Queens contract, we began the environmental work and concrete repair for the 63rd Street eastbound tunnel, and that again is proceeding. Concreting and steel work continues in the open cut area, and in effect, we are preparing for the follow-up on system contracts. The B10 substation and other existing structure fit-outs are on target for completion in January of 2014. We have awarded the westbound bypass. That's something that we've gotten a very positive bid in there. So it was issued to the joint venture of Chevron and Picon, and we have given them a notice to proceed as of beginning of December. The final proposals for the facility systems again have been received and are being evaluated, and again we expect to come to the board for an approval in January of 2014. We're going to go out to 2 contracts that will be advertised by the end of January again, and this is the traction power contract, as well as the Grand Central Terminal Concourse finishes, and that's going to again happen in 2014. We are out already with an RFI advertising, in effect, the finishes of the caverns, and this is our 007. This is part of the 3 contracts that we broke up when we took the 012. The CM012 was broken up into 3 contracts. The third one, we are out right now with an RFEI, so it's really a request for expression of interest, and we will be discussing that separately with each contractor. Also, we expect during 2014 2 other contracts in Harold, the CH057 and 58. The 58 is the eastbound reroute, to be in procurement during the 2014. So that's where we are as far as our contract activities. We are still experiencing a decrease in lost time injury rate from what we had at the beginning of 2012 and then 2013, but we're still not exactly the point that we want to be. That's about it.
Any questions for Michael? Yes. Mr. Vice Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, Michael, with the exception of CM7,
Yes.
the other contracts that were split up, are those bids coming in as expected?
At this point, I would say
or
that...
as we had earlier anticipated?
No, actually, we're doing better than anticipated.
Oh, well, I suppose then when they're awarded, finally, we'll have a report on that.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? If not, thank you, Michael. I didn't know we had so many vent plants and were necessary.
Yes, we do.
Yes, that's clear, that's clear. Chief?
Good morning. For the month of November, we had 8 incidents in Long Island Railroad compared to 9 last year. We did have 2 robberies, one in Wyandanch, which was a cell phone, and property in Hicksville. The one in Hicksville, we did make an arrest. Wyandanch is still open. We had 6 larcenies compared to 6 last year. 3 of those were copper. There was an arrest made in one in the Hicksville yard. The other 2 cases are open. There was one that was cell phone related. One was a backpack. One was tires. And Helena mentioned SantaCon. We did issue 5 summonses due to the alcohol ban. We teamed up with the NYPD, not only in Jamaica, but also in Brooklyn. And we did have an assault earlier in the event out in Huntington, which Suffolk County PD picked up and then referred it to us, and that case is open as well. If there's any questions.
Any questions for the chief? If not, thank you. We're going to move to information items. Committee work plan. I don't think there are any changes to the committee work plan.
That's correct.
Okay, and you also have the elevator and escalator service report starting on page 38. Helena, is there anything you wanted to add on that?
We're happy to answer any questions on that report. I would note that we are continuing our elevator program now, where we're trying to bring elevators back into a state of good repair, and some have been out of service for that purpose.
Any questions on those issues? Okay, action items. First action item is the 2014 final proposed operating budget on page 46. This is the same budget that we got last month. Are there any questions or comments on it? If not, we'll move to send it to finance. All in favor? Aye. Okay, it goes to finance in its current form. The second item is the project labor agreement on page 63. Helena, do you want to add anything on that?
We request the board approval of our project labor agreement and the resolution that appears on page 65. I did work hard to come up with an initiative that would demonstrate savings in our capital program. We identified the project labor agreement as one that would give us savings. It's been a expeditious and cost-effective tool in the private sector on construction projects. We believe that the study that was done by Hill International supports that savings can be achieved, and that was reconfirmed by our negotiations with the building trades, the Nassau-Suffolk building trades, and I think you will see that result actually in our procurement action. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Chuck? You put your mic on, Chuck? Sorry.
Is there any provision in the project labor agreement or otherwise requiring sufficient attention to minority training, employment, or the like?
Yes, in fact, I highlighted that on page 64 because we work very closely with Michael Garner, MTA's Chief Diversity Officer, to ensure that the PLA included numerous equal opportunity hiring provisions, promise of fair treatment for minority and women contractors, and also included the veterans benefiting through their program, helmets to hard hats. And then finally, the Trade Council will continue to have discussions with us as we identify areas for the MTA small business mentoring contracts.
And my second part of that is, what mechanism exists to enforce that?
There is a very rigorous reporting requirement. We will be pursuing that because we want to ensure that we meet those goals and those opportunities. And that is part of our whole agreement as it goes to each project. So they become very project specific, and we will be able to, through project management on, for example, the first project, the double track, to monitor compliance.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the project labor agreement? If not, a motion to approve. Second, any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Procurements. Alina, page 70.
That brings us right to our procurements. Let me get organized here. There are 9 procurements in this month's package totaling $59.7 million. There's one item in the non-competitive section in the amount of $200,000. And let me do that one first. That's a 3-year contract to the New York State Industries for the Disabled, and this is one of the preferred source contracts. And it is for window washing services at Long Island Railroad's Atlantic Avenue Terminal, which is a very beautifully designed terminal, but lots of windows, and we need to keep them up by cleaning them.
Any questions on that item? If not, motion to approve. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Competitive?
We have 7 items in the competitive section, and I will just briefly touch on those. One is to request a resolution to declare competitive bidding impractical, and that is for all the MTA agencies. We're the lead in it, a contractor for industrial supplies. Then we have the contract for the double track project. That's an award in the amount of $34 million to a joint venture between Skanska and Pasilico. And that will be for the construction of the first segment, which is Ronkonkoma to Central Islip. And we were very pleased with the results of that procurement process and believe that we are getting the benefit of the project labor agreement. We certainly got that feedback in the process of the responses by the bidders. We also have a very important item that I want to highlight, an award of a public works contract to E.W. Howell in the amount of $18.5 million, and that is for a new 5-level commuter parking facility at our Wyandanch station. This is a very important component of the Wyandanch Rising project. I think many of you participated in discussions that we had at this committee about the Wyandanch Rising project. We did a land swap with the town of Babylon that went through our MTA real estate department. We now have the land that we're going to build this parking facility on, and it brings additive parking that we think will help support the double track service. We also have a public works project to Power Resources International, PRI, for design and furnishing a new supervisory control system at Divide. That's the SCADA system. There's a miscellaneous service contract for $61,000 to Industrial Process Measurements, and that is for signal meter calibration and repair. We have a personal service contract to Lewis Berger it's an on-call as needed industrial hygienist consulting and laboratory analysis services. And then finally, on behalf of ourself and Metro North and the Business Service Center, we want to award a miscellaneous service contract, $613,000 for a perpetual software license for enterprise architecture. As you know, the MTA is moving on an enterprise-wide asset system, and this will help accommodate that. May we have a vote on the competitive?
Any questions on any of these items first?
I have, with respect to 2 of them. The
Yes.
first one is a language question that raises an issue for me. If you will look at page 76, the Skanska contract, it says under section 3, second paragraph, Skanska is subject to a compliance agreement with respect to its MWDBE practices. What is the nature of that compliance agreement?
I'm going to ask Rich Gans to help me here. We do a due diligence on our proposers, and there was a compliance agreement on their MWBE where we need to ensure that they're meeting the requirements. Rich?
Right, it's basically a monitoring agreement. This had been put in place several years ago. There had been some issues with Skanska. New York City Transit has been monitoring them with an outside monitor, and they're very satisfied with their performance on
Who's the
MBE.
outside monitor?
I can get that information for
Would
you.
you please? And
It's, I'm
does,
sorry, it's Thatcher.
I'm sorry?
Thatcher Associates.
Okay. Second is with respect to the Power Resources International. I've noticed in the past that when you go
79.
through this bidding process and vetting of the various bids, you have a last best offer or best final offer proposal system, but you don't here. Is there a reason you didn't go through best and final offer here?
I gotta turn to Dennis. Is that something we need to get back on, or?
Well,
Yeah.
then may I request that this matter be held over till Wednesday so that we can find out what it is? Because if there hasn't been, and that's been the practice, there's something missing here.
That's not a problem.
Right.
We'll hold that one, and if the information is sufficient, we'll bring it up directly at
Good.
the board on Wednesday.
That's
On
fine.
that one item.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, that's fine.
Good.
That's fine. Any other questions? Wait a minute, Ira had his hand up first.
On page 74, the RFP for industrial supplies, when that's the idea is to have a system where that's awarded to a number of contractors. It isn't just one contractor that's going to supply all these supplies. Is that
Well,
Isn't this the same thing as your?
Dennis,
yeah,
jump in on this
what
one.
is it?
Yes, previously we did have one provider for all the industrial supplies. This opportunity we're looking to broaden our horizons, there may be more than one provider.
So the intent here is to open up the bidding to others.
And let's see, on page. Oh yeah, page 77, the garage. I noticed that it said the design, the preliminary design, at least, was with the town of Babylon. I guess going forward with the construction, there'll still be an ongoing relationship with the town of Babylon. And the last question I have about that is, when this thing is there any plan right now or negotiations with the town about how these spaces will be used and what the pricing would be? Would it be monthly, or we haven't decided, or have we decided that yet?
We have not decided that yet. We'll
Okay.
come back to this committee with recommendations.
Okay, and what's the relationship with the town of Babylon with this garage? Are we going to run it? Are they going to run
Oh,
it?
no,
or-
we will
It's
own
ours.
it. It's ours. We will operate it, and it'll
Okay.
be done in accordance with the MTA policy.
Okay.
Jonathan. Are you
Thank
done?
you.
That's it? Jonathan, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know if this is the time or if I should wait, but I don't want to be precluded from a couple of questions relating to Schedule H, modifications to personal or miscellaneous service contracts.
What page are you on?
Item 88 and 90.
We haven't gotten to that yet.
I just look.
We will get there, in a minute. That's a capital
That's
construction.
my buddy.
Just wait on that for 1 minute.
Hence my question.
Okay. Hence the answer. Any other questions on
I'll
any
have
of the?
questions on that.
Yeah, that's fine. Any other questions on these items? A motion to approve leaving out the Power Resources International item for the moment. We'll bring that back up on Wednesday. Motion to approve, second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
And we have one ratification.
Ratifications?
And that is a emergency declaration regarding a purchase of, a purchase contract to Virginia Transformer Corporation in the amount of $620,000. That's to provide 2 rectifier transformers for use at Island Park and Valley Stream substations.
Any questions on this item? Motion to approve, second. All in favor? Aye. Motion is adopted. Capital construction. Michael?
Good morning.
All right.
Capital Construction has 3 procurement items for consideration this month, totaling $123,546,731. All of the items are competitive, and they begin on page 88. The first item is a modification to the Program Management Consultant Contract to extend services through June 30th, 2015, for a not-to-exceed amount of $367,354. The second item is a modification to the Eastside Access Construction Management Consultant Contract for an increase in the contract value and to extend the contract through June 30th, 2015. The total for this modification is a not to exceed amount of $28,341,164. The last item is a modification to the Eastside Access Harold Structures Part 1 contract for the installation of an additional communications duct bank for the amount of $837,913. These items are submitted for your consideration and vote.
Now, Jonathan,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
I have a couple questions on Schedule H, item 1, and then item 2. The bottom full paragraph on page 88 says the URS scope has been expanded to include some of these additional construction contracts and other specialized task order work. I just want to make sure I understand that other additional work is specifically relating to the East Side Access Project.
Not all of the work that has been included in this contract is East Side Access. In fact, if you look at the bottom, actually the last line on that, it says that about, on this particular thing, about $18.3 million is for non-East Side Access services. What has happened here, this particular contract has been in existence actually for a number of years, and it's a very different type contract and provided the ability for us to provide services that otherwise would have required us to have in-house staff without the ability to be able to change the staff as needed. So yes, we do have at this particular point, if you look in the contract, about $18 million that will actually relating to the Second Avenue or to work that is done right now administratively at MTACC. Remember, we have a very, very limited staff there. So there's some amounts of money that are not related to East Side Access, and we are making the appropriate dollar transfer from the contracts into for this contract. So it's not covered necessarily from East Side Access, but it's covered from other sources depending on where the money is being allocated to. So in this particular case, $18 million would be from other contracts. David, is there anything I've missed or said wrong?
No, that's correct.
Okay.
So, okay. And I see that, you have a well-constructed paragraph on page 89 that says you continue to consider the benefits and impacts of resoliciting this contract. And I laud you for that, but could it perhaps be split into the east side, which you clearly don't want to slow up, and maybe the other projects, which perhaps wouldn't be slowed up by more competition?
For once, the Fulton Center will be completed this coming year. So that's not going to be at all an issue. The Second Avenue, we'll be looking at that. I'm not entirely sure exactly what we can do, but we do have, and splitting it in terms of tasks is maybe easier, but splitting it in terms of personnel. The personnel in many instances are people that were retained and hired to support Second Avenue, and they became an integral part of Second Avenue. So one of the problems that we are looking at and evaluating our ability to rebid the contract is that a lot of the people, not all of them, but many of them have been with the contracts for many years. So once, and this particular contract does not have, it's almost an evergreen contract. That means it doesn't have an end date. It was whenever it was done. It was way before we all even been here. So we're looking at the possibility of doing that without financially or technically harming ourselves, because a lot of the firms that could provide this type of services are precluded from doing so due to the fact that they are our designers. Now, at the same time, when you look at this at the URS contract, you will find out that we have a large number of sub-consultants that actually work under the URS umbrella. URS is not the only one that provides that. So, if we were to procure a new one, we'll probably have to have a 6 months overlap between the two. So we are looking to see the feasibility of doing that without actually shooting ourselves in the foot and spending more money than we need to.
I think I understand. The only thing I would ask is, as new tasks or perhaps amendments or perhaps things come up that weren't anticipated, if there's a way to split the work.
I will understand.
Because I just want to point out, and I know it probably predates you by a lot too.
It does.
The original contract was 28 million. The current request is about 94 million, and the current amount is approaching 500 million.
David,
So there is a
you have much more
256%.
Yeah.
Commissioner, the original contract, you're right, was $28 million, but the board actually approved $164 million for the contract. The contract originally was done in phases, and the first phase was support of preliminary engineering with the additional the additional amount between 28 and 164 million coming once we started executing some of the additional phases.
Well,
John-
understand, I understand.
Jonathan, also, just because it's here somewhere, it was June 98. So it was last century, so to speak.
The last deck, but can I just make a comment about that? I see why Commissioner Mallon is concerned about this. It's just, the original amount was 184, now we're up at nearly 500 million? 500,000? What am I reading? Yeah,
500 million.
Right, I mean, that's significantly more, and if going into this, we knew that this would happen, why didn't we initially approve a greater amount? Or did we not know this was going to happen? And you're saying to continue with URS and the people that work for them is a great efficiency, and it's a good thing, we negotiate them and everything works out fine. But we didn't do that in the 1990s, whoever was here, didn't think that we'd continue with them, or didn't think that we had to do that.
I cannot guess.
Yeah, I know, but I'm
people
trying to-
thought in '98.
In the future, I guess we won't have a contract this large or this big. Maybe this only applies to East Side Access.
Yes, if I may,
I'm sorry to interrupt. But is there a contract for Second Avenue Subway like this?
No. We are utilizing this contract for some of the Second Avenue tasks. But let me just make a point here, because that's very important, distinction between, this is, when this was put in place, was many years ago, and if I'm correct, this was a joint venture at the time between URS and Bechtel. That they were supposed to do it all somehow. And that has evolved because Bechtel pulled out, and then URS remained alone, and it was supposed to be just a program management. And then that was turned into a somewhat of a construction management. When I joined MTACC, we brought on board another company to be able to provide kind of a balance to the construction management. It was a joint venture of 3 firms. It was Jacobs, Edison Kelsey, and Lero. As it happens in the industry, the two of the 3, one of the 3 bought the other one. But it's still competitive because we have 2 firms providing and being able to look at prices in a competitive fashion. So we're doing that continuously. Yet I would say to you that the program management component is a very important one, because we are running our program with about 130 people. And a lot of the people that we have, we are able to hire through URS. And they are not only working for us as sometimes providing construction management, they do provide, and they always compete with the other provider, that is the Jacobs Lero company. But at the same time, we are able to retain people that become part of our infrastructure work in providing what we need to do. One of the things that I would like to make sure that is understood, that in addition to providing consulting services, they're providing some general conditions. Example, the guard services and badging at all our locations is done through URS. The geotechnical instrumentation is done through URS. We have rented a warehouse and we're staffing the warehouse. That's done through them. We're doing document management and control, utilize them. So they have a kind of a very, kind of an embracing function that goes way beyond just providing consulting services. So, and we're able to negotiate with them very good rates. We lowered their profit rate. We lowered their extremely competitive overhead rates. So we believe that we're getting a pretty good deal.
It sounds more like we're married to them, but it
It sounds like a marriage. If a marriage is a good deal, yeah.
Okay, thank you. They made that.
Assuming marriage is a good deal, we are married to them.
Yes.
Commissioner, I just wanted to add that you asked a question about 1998 and when they originally you have to remember back in 1998 when this contract was put together, it was before the preliminary engineering was done, and at the time they were looking at a 2011 completion. So that also added to some of the amount.
But then the question that I think Commissioner Bowles is, should we have just done a new bidding, not added this on to this contract? But that's a second guessing thing.
Okay. Any other questions on this?
The same thing. The same thing for the next item. The next consultant construction management services, Jacobs Lyro.
Liro.
To the extent, and I laud you for making periodic attempts. To the extent it's something that is able to be split with respect to new additional work, unanticipated work. I think we all share the goal of not having, contracts go from, the original amounts to several 100% increases over the original. So if we can split that up, the better.
Okay.
And
I think he got the point.
I got it, and I think we will do whatever it needs to do to try to correct that.
Commissioner Brown, this one is strictly CCM. Strictly construction, consultant construction management.
The last one.
The second one.
The second one. Okay.
And they have a producer price inflation index to a consulting contract.
Originally, the negotiation was it was a different fixed fee, which wound up being a little higher. This one wound up being more conducive to what was going on.
All right. My follow-up questions do not have to be done now, but I do have a few. So why don't
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on these items? Motion to approve? Second? All in favor? Aye? Okay. There are no ratifications. Are there any questions on any of the status of operations, financial ridership, or capital program from anyone? If not, all the materials are in the book. If you have any questions, please let Helena know and she will be more than happy to get you an answer. With that, I take a motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you all very much.
That's how we got that name today.